no, she didn't really want him, just kids. Oh. What's up, guys? It's Devin Harrington, the average Gen Xer, and welcome back to my channel, where today we are taking a look at some stories on the Regretful Parents subreddit, written by folks who say that parenthood is a scam. Now, please remember, as always, we don't read these stories or react to them or comment on them to mock or shame these folks in any way. We simply want to encourage people to use their critical thinking skills and think long and hard before they decide to have kids. So let's get to it. But first, if you watch my content, you know that on every video, I beg and plead with all animal lovers out there, please consider fostering or volunteering on site for your local animal shelter. Every shelter on earth needs volunteers and fosters. It's a sad fact of life. So please do your little part to help save the world for these little souls. And there is my foster, Goldie. Goldie, she's getting so big now. And she is available for adoption through the Austin Animal Center. I have had her for a couple of months almost now. She is getting bigger. She's almost 6 months old now. And sometimes you have certain fosters longer than others. I've had a foster that got adopted after 1 day, and I've had another foster that I had for almost a year and a half before he got adopted. And that particular dog was a pit bull, an 8-year-old pit bull named Handsome, who had bone cancer. And he was the handsomest pit bull ever. In fact, Justin Theroux, the actor, paid, along with several other dogs, paid their adoption fees up front. So his adoption was free. And it took a year and a half almost, but the perfect person did come along, and they had that boy for the rest of his life. And when he did pass from bone cancer, we gave him, a send-off. Anyway, if you love animals, please give it some thought. Thank you. Okay, first post up is from user Vol4T113, and it's titled, Bundle of Joy, they said. Need to find the author of this statement and bash his head in. Total and absolute scam. And that's all they had to say. But really, it says it all. They are clearly someone who was sold the line of goods that society has been selling people to encourage them to have children. And a lot of people do, unfortunately, still think, oh, well, okay, this is what we're supposed to do. We'll just do this. And the whole purpose of this content is to get people to just snap out of that. Just think about it. Think the realities of it. Because yes, you get the baby, and the baby is cute and it's precious, but that baby is not going to stay a baby. And I think people just get baby fever and forget about the responsibilities and the sacrifice that they're going to have to make, or they just don't even think about it to begin with. So Recovering Gatekeeper says, I also blame the parents who perpetuate this lie, fully knowing it's a lie. Yeah. Unfortunately, there's a lot of that going around, which really astounds me in this day and age, when it's so easy to just get your device, research anything. You would think more people would do some research if they're going to have a kid. I don't know. It's probably because it's just a natural result of two fertile people having sex on the right day. It just happens. And in my humble opinion, in the 21st century, we can't just let this just happen anymore. We got fucking problems, people. The world is overpopulated, in my opinion. Okay, Bandy Span said, it's mostly our brains protecting us from ourselves. You remember the good times, and the bad times are swept under the rug. Yeah, I guess once you have raised your kids, you do tend to only remember the good times. Or maybe people just cause themselves to forget the bad times. I am not a psychologist or a mental health professional of any kind, but I did read about this condition condition, if you will, called betrayal blindness. And it's like a person feels so betrayed that their brain literally blocks out the bad memories. I think it's like that for a lot of parents. You expected something and you just cannot accept that it's not the way you were told it would be. It's really tragic when you see these stories on here where a woman is saying, I was told that there was no greater love. And yes, that's true for a lot of people. That's why we have that saying, but it's not true for everyone. And everyone should be allowed to make that choice for themselves. They should be allowed to feel the way they feel. Anyway, C. Betteridge said, I thought they genuinely enjoyed it. I genuinely enjoy my kids and their teens. My friends who claim to like them as babies can't cope with teens. I thought different strokes for different folks. I imagine dealing with an infant is very different from dealing with a toddler, is very different from a young kid and then teenagers. Yeah, it is all different. But the fact that people have called babies bundles of joy, and it's hilarious how she assumes it was, or they assumed it was a man that came up with that. And I bet they're right. So I was kind of curious, where did the expression bundles of joy come from? And I couldn't find a definitive answer, but I did find this interesting article on npr.org. Studies show kids may not be bundles of joy. And this is from way back in July of 2008. God, that was another place and time. The cliche refers to newborn children as bundles of joy, but recent research indicates that bundles of anxiety or even bundles of depression might be more accurate. Sociologists are discovering that children may not make parents happier, and that childless adults, contrary to popular stereotypes, may often be more contented than people with kids. Wow, I'd love to see the data on that now that we're almost 2 decades later. Parents, quote, definitely experience more depression, says Robin Simon, a sociologist at Florida State University who has studied data on parenting. Part of our cultural beliefs is that we derive all this joy from kids, says Simon. It's really hard for people who don't feel this to admit it. Well, don't worry about that, 2008. We got it covered in 2025. We got plenty of places to complain about how much we hate having children. Social pressures to view only the positive aspects of child rearing only make the problem worse. Agreed. They're afraid to admit it because it runs so counter to our cultural beliefs that children make you happy. That's all I'll read of this particular article. Children don't make everybody happy. If I had children, I would be in prison or dead, in a mental hospital. I'd be one of those moms that smokes crack in the bathroom. I don't want children. I don't want human children. And there are plenty of people who feel that way. This line of bullshit needs to stop with telling people they won't know any greater love, or just giving people anxiety about, well, I'm not going to be a full human being unless I reproduce. And then they end up on the regretful parent subreddit. Come on. Okay, next post is by user Zealous Dealbug 6212. We've all been scammed. Where is this village that's supposed to be helping raise children I hear people talking about? Well, there's the first problem. It takes a village to raise a child is an expression. And maybe there was a village and maybe there is a village in other countries, but the majority of these stories come out of the US, and there ain't no village here. You are on your own, unless you come from a large extended family who has that village mentality. This is why I really wish people would research more, because they make assumptions and then they are disappointed. She goes on, we are on a fucking asteroid 20 million miles away from wherever that is. 4 sets of parents, divorcees and remarried, mostly retired, and we haven't been on a single date in over a year. We've traveled to somewhere else for every major holiday with 3 kids. My wife, stay-at-home mom, okay, so this is the father, who wrote this, is burned out to the point of where there's essentially no order in the house, and she puts every ounce of effort into keeping the duct tape and band-aids from ripping too much. When I get home from work, we have to make a choice between her going insane or me working another 4 to 5 hours with childcare. Yes, it feels like a job to me. Cue the eye rolls. Dude, yeah. You think you've been scammed, and yet you have 3 kids? 3. He goes on, we cannot afford daycare, babysitter, etc., because we bought a massive house 2 years ago with a guest suite with promises of periodic live-in assistance from parents. Yeah, don't ever fall for that. There is one story after another from parents on this talking about that very thing, how people say they're going to help you. Oh, they're going to babysit anytime you want. They're going to, take the kid for a day, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, maybe they will, but they're not required to. If you are the one who brought a human being into the world, that is your responsibility. You don't get a break from being a parent unless somebody wants to help you. So think about that before you fucking have kids. He goes on, the guest area has been set up the entire time and has been slept in once or twice from people visiting for a day. I even rented it out once because fuck it, it's just gathering dust. Yeah, well, you should be renting it permanently. A guest suite. That sounds pretty cool. I'm sorry, but when we were growing up, we were dropped off at grandma's weekly. True. I will say, my grandma showed up at our house every weekday morning to help make lunches, to help get the kids ready for school. Basically my entire until I was in high school, and that was only because my mom finally asked my grandma for the key back, because my grandma had a key to wherever my mom lived, like until she was 30. So yes, that was very common to have that kind of family help, but times are different. The world has changed. People are just in too much of a rush. We have too many responsibilities. There's too many things to do. Everything is ungodly expensive in the US. I mean, can you blame people for not wanting to have to deal with your kids? Now it's a nonstop cruises, vacations, etc. for grandma and grandpa. Yeah, they deserve to enjoy their retirement. Sorry, Mimi and Opa, because apparently being called grandma and grandpa means you actually have to do some shit other than be a cartoon character that comes around when it's convenient, have your fun, and leave. Man, this guy should not have had kids. If he thinks that taking care of his kids is a job and his wife is losing her mind, he'll be back on here soon saying that they're getting divorced or something. He goes on, boomers are absolutely the worst generation. All the shit they do for fun absolutely disgusts me. It makes me pray for the economy to go tits up so the fun money goes bye-bye. Well, you're probably going to get your wish. To get to the point of this rant, we've been scammed into thinking that the way things have been with child rearing for the last couple millennia would continue to be that way when we had kids. Congratulations, sir. The light bulb is turning on. Boomers have this coin slot mentality with everything, and their unhelpful and out of touch advice really shows it, because they had a set of instructions they could follow and success would arrive. Yeah, he's right. I mean, nowadays, isn't it like the kids of today are the first generation that will not outlive their parents because of they're raised on processed food and they're all obese and pre-diabetic, and the way my parents lived, the world they lived in, is gone. The average blue collar couple who just got married and had their first baby and are in their early 20s are not just out shopping for a house. It's a different world now, and we have got to change our ways, in my humble opinion. He goes on. You had to really be a fuck up to not make it back then. So I understand why they have the mindset they do. They are absolute toddlers, and some really smart people have figured out that they will blow all of their money on pointless entertainment and stimulation as long as it takes them as far away as possible from any meaningful responsibility. We've made the decision that there is no lifeline here for them. They better pray the money lasts long enough to get them into a nursing home that isn't staffed by elder abusers, if I'm involved in the decision. The guest suite is going to be converted into something else at this point. Help is not on the way. We aren't wasting our time anymore or changing things around for anyone at this point. If they want to see our kids on holidays, they are more than welcome to get a hotel and stop by. End of rant. Shout out to everyone in the same situation because I know there's a lot of you. I never wanted to be a regretful parent, but I didn't realize my frame of reference, my life growing up, was a relic of a bygone era. Man, this guy's got away with words and he is pissed. Like I feel his pain. I'm sure he loves his children, but the regret of thinking your life was going to be a certain way, making this life-changing decision to have a family and then having it just like he says, his frame of reference is the way he was raised and the way even Gen Xers were raised, even some millennials. Like that way of life is over. It's unfortunate, but we have to adapt. And humans are still around because we are adaptable little fuckers. So we need to adapt with regard to this issue. I Can't Read Cat said, a lot of what I think is that boomers never really even wanted kids, but were forced into it by a society at a younger age. Yeah, it's probably true. It makes sense why they don't want to help you take care of your kids when they didn't want you that much to begin with. Well, that's one way to look at it. Sure. I mean, I only have the frame of reference of what my parents' lives or what my parents have told me what their lives were like. But my mother desperately wanted to get a college education when she graduated from high school in the mid 60s. And instead, her parents told her, you're female. You're just going to get married and have kids. And my dad was crazy about her. And here we are. But I wish my mom would have gone to college. She deserved to go to college. OK Confusion said, this is very true. My 73-year-old dad has openly said he never wanted kids, but he had to, in quotes, get married. So the kids just came along with it. Oh, my God. That is a very common attitude. He had to get married. Yeah, back not even so very long ago. It's like in certain cultures, you're not an adult until you get married. You cannot be taken seriously until you get married. And that is also a 20th century notion that needs to be kicked back from whence it came. Kafia Beans Flower Dreams said, what a cop-out answer from your dad. My dad is the same way at 72, as if someone held a gun to his head and told him to have a child. Jesus fucking Christ. Boomer dads are the worst. And OK Confusion responded, oh, yeah, there are zero excuses for him. Trust me. He wanted to get married so he could have a live-in maid. Oh, she didn't really want him, just kids. Oh, my God. Guess they both got what they had coming. Wow. Anaya T. Boomers say they raised all kids and took care of the house easy, but they had lots of help from parents. Yeah, everything was fucking dirt-ass cheap, too, when they were young. You could work a part-time job during the summer and save the money to buy your books and probably pay your college tuition if you went to a cheaper school. You can't do that now on 2 full-time jobs. Anaya T goes on, even if the husband worked a lot to provide the family and didn't help much at home, they had a village. They'd also let the children cry themselves to sleep or do their thing. It was usual back then for mothers to rest in bed for days after giving birth, as they should. While today we're expected to start caring for the children alone a couple hours after they're born, and we're all ripped apart. No comment there. Moving on, Dev. They'd also let the children play all day with the neighbors or leave them at a neighbor's house for extended periods of time. That is true. Yeah, that is very true. We would go outside and it was, you come back when the streetlights come on. And you were with your gang of friends usually, but not necessarily. I mean, I had my besties when I was a little kid, the two of us. I remember walking home from school, um, from like second grade with my best friend, and you just were out doing whatever you wanted. There was no worry about kids being snatched from the street. I'm sure it happened, but the world was a different place, like I keep saying. They go on, and they would socialize more with family and neighbors. It has its plus, but also many children were raised in ways that we now know can cause emotional damage later. We were not made to raise children alone, whether single or a couple. Agreed. With no support network or help, and boomers claiming we have it easy have no idea what they're talking about. Well, that's for damn sure. And I would agree with that person's comment. I think, and this is why I fucking make this content. So that maybe 3 people on earth will see it and realize that having children is not the right choice for them. Because being a single parent is the fucking worst. And do not have a kid if you are going to put yourself in a horrible, precarious situation and make your life more difficult. It just makes no frickin' sense. Children, in my opinion, do need multiple adults who care, who are in their lives to guide them and give them advice and teach them manners and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I don't care what orientation they are, but there needs to be several people and an extended family, ideally. And if I ran the world, you know, everybody would be sterilized at birth, and we'd figure a way to reverse it if you decided you wanted to have kids. I know, stupid fantasy fever dream, but whatever, a girl can dream. Kafia Beans Flower Dreams, I hope I'm saying that right, responded, "My boomer dad didn't do jack all. I constantly was dropped off at Camp Grandpa and Grandma, dad's side, or Camp Grandma, mom's side. And then immediately when I turned 10, I was allowed to stay home by myself, taught to do laundry, iron, cook, early dinner for myself, and told I had to walk the dogs. And then at 12:15, it was my responsibility to take care of my grandma with Alzheimer's after school, while in sports clubs studying to make sure she was safe and taking her medication, ate food, and if something happened to her. I was immediately grounded, and it was somehow became my problem. And if I needed any help with homework or studying, my parents told me it was my fault and not their problem, and I had to learn what I didn't know quite literally by myself." I can certainly relate to that. I was babysitting at 10. I was babysitting at 9. And that was just normal back then. I did laundry. I knew how to iron. I had school uniforms that I had to starch and iron. I never did much cooking per se, but I worked for my parents' industrial catering business. So, I was making food and handling responsibility, basically, is what she's saying. Kids were just expected and had responsibility and discipline drilled into them. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong or indifferent, but from what these folks say on this sub, we have swung the pendulum too far in the opposite direction. Okay, one last post, and I wanted to read this because I just am fascinated by this woman's story. This is actually from 2 years ago, so 2023. I would love if she would update it, but it's user Unfair Management. "Last week, I decided to walk away from parenting. We have 3 kids, one autistic and difficult. We've been in court since May of 2022. And the courts are slow and doing nothing to enforce him to help. So she's got 3 kids she is raising herself." She goes on, "He's ordered to pay $200 from a previous order, and he doesn't do that. There's still no court date or even temporary hearing in sight to address help for these kids. Seems like the courts are giving the non-custodial parent so much leniency and just expecting the primary parent to figure it out." Well, I don't think she's wrong. It sounds like that's exactly what's happening. She goes on, "I called an adoption agency last week and was able to get in contact with a family. I know him and his family will try to object, and that's fine. I'll sign my rights away to them and not deal with it. I'm so tired and I feel like I failed my kids, but I'm drowning and nobody is listening until I go to extreme lengths. Ugh. God, I just feel this woman's pain. Even if you don't have kids and can't relate to that aspect of the story, that feeling of being trapped and just unable to get out from under whatever is holding you down. And it's really sad that she had 3 kids with this man, and now they are the ones who will have to suffer. But I also agree that if she is in this state, she's in no state to raise children, and the kids deserve better. No Paint 3206 said, "You made a hard decision, but ultimately it's the best for you. Wishing you peace and happiness." Reason Training said, "You haven't failed your kids. When you are drowning, you can't save anyone else, including yourself. I've been the person who stepped in to raise my nephew when his parents could not. Just like them, you found a solution and someone who could step in when the kids need someone. That's not failing. That's having the knowledge to recognize that you are in over your head and finding a solution to the issue, so neither of you nor the kids suffer. If the sperm donor and his family object, they should have stepped up sooner to help you." Yeah, if she lets her kids be adopted by another family and he's got a problem with it, then she is willing to sign her rights away. I wonder what the legality of that is. If the non-custodial parent clearly doesn't want the kids full time and the primary parent signs their rights away, I guess the non-custodial parent doesn't have to take the kids, but that's just man, I feel bad for the kids. That's tough. Careful Sentence said, "Damn, I totally understand and hope you find peace in knowing you did the right thing for your shitty situation." And someone who deleted their account said, "Don't feel bad about it. Raising a kid is hard, let alone multiple kids, plus one with a disability. You're human too, and it seems like there isn't much help or support for you, especially from the dad, who should be held equally as responsible for your kids as you are. If people are going to look down on you for giving up custody, they better have that same energy for your ex who's been absent, but they won't because of good old sexism." And that is what I have for you today, guys. Let me know your thoughts. If you have kids, do you feel that you were scammed in any way, that you were not told the whole truth or anything to that effect? If you don't feel that way, I am thrilled for you. You are the people who should be having children, should be raising children. If you don't have kids, do you agree with any of this? It definitely seems to be, well, because we have so many ways of communicating now, all of this is globally coming out. How many people have bought this line of crap and found out too late that it was not the right choice for them? So please think long and hard if you are on the fence about having children. And I thank you so much if you made it to the end of this video. You are a trooper, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much.